Baseball is back. The Detroit Tigers do lose on opening day. Spencer Torkelson has a historic performance, however. We will talk about that and so much more all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Friday, March 28th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Happy Friday, everybody. We are back. We are so back. The Detroit Tigers do lose on opening day to the Dodgers by a score of 5-4. A lot going on. Okay, a lot going on the field, a lot going on off the field. It was. Does this make me sound like I'm crabby? Like there was so much going on, dude. Like in the broadcast, we had like a ton of graphics going on, and we were looking at celebrities, and we were interviewing people in the crowd and on the field at one point. Like just there were pictures of people like on vacation. It was so overwhelming. But that is the LA kind of experience, I guess. And was kind of expected for a Dodgers team that is the most expensive team in the history of baseball, is one of the most talented and loaded rosters in the history of baseball, and is coming off of a World Series ring with one of, if not the biggest name in sports right now, in Shohei Ohtani. A lot of pageantry. Love opening day. Ice Cube driving a convertible on a baseball field wasn't on my bingo card. But, baseball's back, baby. I do appreciate still that they do the, ring ceremony, or like the equivalent of, right? Like they do the, they raise the flag and bring out the World Series trophy and everything. I still think that's cool. And, ultimately on the field, like the Tigers kept it close. I'm really not too upset after this one. Not in like you came close and that's good enough for me type of way. Not in that type of way. Well, we'll dive into that, but definitely in a just kind of, I don't know, outlook going forward. It's game one, and things could have been a whole heck of a lot worse given the opponent. Let's start with what went wrong. So if you're new here, and maybe, or, in the last 4 months, if you've come aboard the train here, when we talk about baseball games, we break things down into what went wrong, what went right, and then stuff is anything else that I just want to talk about in regards to the game, kind of, and just ramble. When we lose, we start with what went wrong. When we win, we start with what went right. We're so back. I know this is a loss, but this is why I love doing this, right? Like the off season is great because we can talk about the what ifs and we can talk about the big picture. Like talking ball is like what I love to do and what I want to do every day of my life. And so like this is the element here. Like this is really what I look forward to. And I hope that you are in the same boat. Let's talk about some baseball. What went wrong? It goes almost without saying. Actually, completely, I would say, without saying. If you did watch this ball game, RISP. Now, I very famously, like 6 people, but know about it. But a couple of years ago, I had an episode of this show that was just titled RISP, runners in scoring position, copy and pasted over and over and over and over and over again until I reached the character limit. And then the description was RISP. And then the little, if you're watching on YouTube, the show sheet was RISP. And I forget, I should go back and see what their stats were for that game. because the Tigers went 0 for 15 with runners in scoring position on opening day, Thursday night. That is unbelievable. And it's beyond frustrating because for as much as I said, oh, like they kept it close despite all these things, whatever, they could have walked out of there with a win. Dare I say they should have. Now, I don't like using should too terribly often. The game is played on the field. You have to earn it. And ultimately, they didn't because they couldn't come through with runners in scoring position. But I think more my point here is that for as much as there are complaints about the lack of signing a big bat in the offseason or the concerns there are offensively, they're not going to go, hitless with runners in scoring position all year. They will. I know this is hard to believe. They will get hits with runners in scoring position at some point. And last year, especially in the second half, they were not like terrible in that regard. In the second half, they were actually pretty decent, just period. But like overall in the season, they weren't a train wreck with RISP like they were 2 years ago, and certainly like they were in 2022. That was one of the worst offenses I've ever seen in my life. So this was brutal, absolutely and objectively brutal. And it's really hard to win baseball games when you go 0 for 15 with runners in scoring position. And I said that in the cadence as if I had something to say after that. I don't. That's it. That's the end of it. That was brutal, and that cannot happen on a consistent basis. I don't think it will. This certainly isn't going to be a high-powered offense, though, either. And there is a lot of concerns in regards to the offense. Kicking off the season with this does not help any of those suspicions, right? Now, specifically, if we want to go player by player, a player that falls into the category of what went wrong in this game is Colt Keith. He looked absolutely brutal at the dish, man. Last year, we talked about it over the winter, he actually hit better against lefties than righties. And he didn't hit particularly well against either, all things considered. But he was like average-ish against left-handed pitching last year. And for him to look completely like lost is really the word I want to use at the plate against righties and lefties in this ballgame. I think he faced one righty and the rest were all lefties. Oh, maybe two there by the end of the game. Either way, faced both handedness pitchers in this game. Did not look any better against one than the other. He was late as heck trying to keep this, PG here. He was late as heck on every fastball that was thrown to him. All of them, dude. I guess unless you want to count the cutter at the end of the game that he swung, it was ball 4, ball 3, whatever the count was. It was not in the strike zone, and it sawed his bat, and he popped it up for the ball game. I guess if you want to count that cutter, then maybe not. But like literally swung through and was late on every fastball. I think he was shown this game. Curveballs low, swung and missed at all of them. He looked overpowered, and it's troubling. I think it's fair. Like you on opening day, you have to walk this fine line of believing what your eyes tell you while also not overreacting to one game. And it's very difficult. Now, I don't walk it very well. I'm a very emotional person. I know that's something that fans struggle with. I am very open about how I struggle doing that when I watch games early in the season. I think you have to keep giving him opportunities. You've invested too much in him, and you want to see if the first base thing works. To see if he can adapt and adjust and maybe get back on track, because it's a timing issue. And if he can get the timing back, then he'll be fine. His mechanics are not like super flawed. They're not messed up. But right now, and this is a thing that was occurring over the spring too, in spring training, was like, I just have no confidence. I have very, very little confidence when he's at the plate right now. And I feel like part of the issue might be he feels the same way. This is one of the best minor league hitters I've literally ever seen in the Tigers organization in my entire life. The swing is beautiful. I I, he I still believe in Colt Keith. It's one game. He didn't look that lost last year despite his struggles. Just needs to make some adjustments, needs to fix the timing. And hopefully he can do that sooner rather than later, because I don't want to be talking about on May 1st how we have to like debate playing him every day. So hopefully that's something that gets on track. Let's talk about Javi. We're going to talk about a few other specific moments in this game. Then we'll talk about what went right, all after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Game Time. There's nothing better than catching a Major League Baseball game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of ballpark food. And if you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets even easier than ever before. With last minute deals, all-in pricing, and the lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices actually drop as Game Time gets closer, meaning you can score on an incredible deal right before first pitch. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On, and there's some Tigers games right around the corner. The home opener is a mere week away. Actually, a week away. Yeah, as you listen to this. And I can count on Game Time to grab those tickets to meet my needs. Again, the last minute-ness of it is really the best part. And I also love that I can preview my seat before purchasing, so there's no bad surprises when I get to the stadium. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back on Monday, recapping this opening series against the Dodgers and talking about the week ahead next week. Want to talk a little bit about Javi before we get into what went right here. A couple other smaller things as well. Javi's at-bats were brutal, and that's not a surprise to anybody. Nobody hears that and goes, oh, dude, no way. Who could have possibly have seen this coming? It's just even more frustrating that they were they were high. I don't want to say high intensity. They were potentially clutch ABs. There was runners on base for at least one of them, if not both. And just completely uncompetitive, man. So that was a little bit frustrating. And then there was a Jake Rogers hanging curveball. Was that his first AB? It was one of his first two at-bats of the game. He got a hanging curveball right down the middle and smacked it right to the left fielder. I have no clue how that ball is not into orbit. And that's something that throughout the year, Jake Rogers' value at the plate is going to come via slug and power, like we saw 2 years ago rather, and 2 seasons ago. So going to need him to make some adjustments there. I'm sure he'll, needs to be better than last year. So I that's the reason I point that out. The only other thing I want to talk about here is a couple of calls the umpire made. I'm not really big on blaming umpires for wins and losses. I certainly do not blame the umpires for a loss here. The Tigers went 0 for 15 with runners in scoring position. Very far from that. I try to not do that as much as possible because I think that's kind of weak more times than not. There were just a couple of calls specifically in this game that were really brutal. Riley Green had one in his final at-bat. The ball must have been 6 inches out of the strike zone. I mean, my goodness. And then there was another one earlier in the game, maybe to Colt Keith. I forget who, doesn't really matter. But outside of that, I actually thought for the first, especially 4 or 5 innings that the umpire did pretty darn well. I was pretty pleased with his zone. And then, just a few missed calls later, but nothing too crazy. Thought it was a pretty solid game from him. Let's talk about what went right. Spencer Torkelson. We're not bearing the lead. Okay. I guess, we're talking about it halfway through the show, but we're not burying the lead in terms of the segment. We're not burying it. We're not going to save it for last. Spencer Torkelson had a historic performance, like legitimately a stat line that only a handful of players in the history of baseball have literally ever had. He is 1-for-1 on the season with a home run, despite having 5 plate appearances. 1-for-1 with a home run and 4 walks, and that home run went 423 feet. Now, this is the opposite side of the Colt Keith coin, right? You have one guy that looks absolutely brutal one game into the season, and you want to go, okay, I don't want to overreact. I don't want to say, look, like, get this, send him down to Toledo. He looks terrible because it's one game against a 2-time Cy Young winner and a bullpen full of guys with sub-2 ERAs. That is a loaded, stacked, ridiculous baseball team that only threw dogs against you the entire 9 innings, and you still only lost by a run. In the same breath, Torkelson's obviously not going to end the season with a 5,000 OPS. So, I think the reason why I am allowing myself to get excited and to buy back in a little bit, and it's a long season. I'm not here to tell you, like, he's going to be the 1-1 pick that was promised. He's going to hit 45 home runs and hit 300 this year. Not what I'm here to do, okay? The reason why I'm allowing myself to get a little excited is because there are tangible changes that were made this spring. His stance is significantly different. And it's all down to just look at a side-by-side of what it used to be and what it was in this ballgame. It is all where he is. It's like his balance and like where he is storing his weight. That sounds like like bear hibernating. That's not exactly, I guess, what I mean. But like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? This is a much more athletic stance and is significantly easier for him to get around on the ball. That was a ball that was over 90 miles an hour, elevated. Now, the big thing and the big reason why I'm still holding out a little bit before I'm like, let's just jump head first into like being all back, is because I want to see how he does against velocity. One of the biggest things that has troubled Torkelson over the years has been an inability to hit really anything consistently over 95 miles an hour. And so still waiting for that. Again, it's one game. I need a lot more of a sample size, but this was obviously a great start. And I think the fact that there are tangible things you can see that are way better and look way better, it leads you to kind of accept that this could be different. And it's not just like, oh, I'm just like crossing my fingers and hoping. I guess I'm kind of still doing that, but you get my point. Like, this is a guy who has put in work and has made changes, and hopefully those changes lead to better results. He was amazing. His pitch selection was fantastic. Did not expand the zone much at all. And I think he has a confidence and a swagger about him right now that I don't think we've ever seen before. It's the most confident I've ever seen him in the batter's box. That I will say, like, objectively, that is the most confident I have ever seen him in a batter's box. And it's one game. Want to talk about the bullpen as well. I thought that went right, despite giving up 1 run. It was 1 run in 3 innings. Obviously, stat line, box score-wise, not the greatest thing in the world, but Brebbia looked great. 1 inning, 2 strikeouts. Hannafy, we'll talk about him last because he did give up the run. Brisky looked fantastic. Great fastball in this game. Yeah, I really like what I saw from him. I thought the changeup had a lot of life. That's always been a great pitch for him, but I thought he looked sharp. Hannafy, I thought looked great. That is just like you tip your cap. That is a bowling ball on the outside of the plate to a lefty, and he crushes it the opposite way. Like, that's just Shohei Ohtani being Shohei Ohtani, man. Like, I am very vocal when I watch baseball games. I'm very emotional, and I need a bleep button. But like that is one where I wasn't even mad. It's like, all right, like you shrug your shoulders, you just go to the next guy. And I do. My opinion of Hannafy has not changed whatsoever after that at bat. Credit where credit is due. Okay. Ryan Kreidler made an absolutely fantastic play in center field. And after hearing all about how Kreidler made the team because of his defense, he goes out there, he makes a phenomenal play. That is I think Cody Stavenhagen said it was like an under 10% chance, like catch probability. That is a ridiculous play for a guy that's not a true center fielder. And that is where he is showing his value and his versatility. And I have to give credit where it is due. He still left a lot of men on base, but he got a hit too. Like if he hits ninth and gets one single and plays good defense every day, I'll take a 230 hitter with no power that plays good defense for 4 to 6 weeks in center field until somebody's healthy again. So we'll see, right? We'll see. I'm not jumping to any conclusions here either, but this was a fine start to the Ryan Kreidler experience in center field. I want to talk about a few more things that I thought went right in this game, then we'll talk stuff. All right, we'll do that right after this. Got to talk to you all about our friends over at Prize Picks. Baseball season is in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you can pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs. Prize Picks keeps every game exciting. Setting up a lineup takes less than 60 seconds, and when you win, your payout is quick, safe, and secure. And they also have Taco Tuesday, which is really fun. Prize Picks offers discounts on select player projections for even more value. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, Tigers lose 5-4 on opening day to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Want to talk about some other things that I thought went right in this game. Manuel Margot, got to give him credit as well. Couple of hits and a sac fly, was very impactful at the plate. One of the more impactful hitters, actually, the Tigers had in this ball game. So tip of the cap, a ton of credit to him as well. I agree with the pinch hit too. I saw some people that were talking about he had a good game. You got to leave him in. He does not hit righties well. He hit well because he was put in the position that he traditionally does hit well the whole game. That is why he was in the game and doing well, and that's also why he left the game when he left the game. That is just good coaching and managerial decisions. So I have no issue with the pinch hit. Yeah, like Kerry Carpenter, sack fly off a lefty. Speaking of platoons, he smacked that ball. Now, it was a fastball down the middle, and I think if a righty throws that, he probably takes it 490 feet for a homer. But that's not he didn't go 0 for 1. He went 0 for 0 with a sack fly and an RBI in that against the lefty in this game. So I think that is really important and nice to see as well. Gleyber Torres, 2 for 5 in this game, a couple of big hits to, especially in the ninth, to start the inning off with a base runner. Great heads up stolen base, and that kind of transitions me into base running in general. I thought was really solid in this game. It's going to be frustrating at times, just like it always is, right? And you saw like the running on contact thing early in the game. Colt Keith hits a dribbler, and Torkelson runs on contact because that's the Tigers' philosophy. The Tigers and the analytics that they have say that more times than not, it is more beneficial to run on contact with a runner on third. They're going to do it all year. They did it all year last year. They graded out as one of the better base running teams in the entire sport. They're absolutely going to do it again. And it's give and take, right? Like you saw a frustrating moment there with Torkelson, but like Torkelson also went first to third later in the game. And most teams aren't that aggressive. That's a first baseman that was able to get an extra 90 feet there. Gleyber Torres steals second. That's huge in that moment. Then tries stealing third, but there's a foul ball, right? And he had a great jump. No one was holding him on second. I genuinely think he gets there as well. So it's just something we have come to know at this point. There's going to be some egregious moments, especially with Joey Cora over at third base, where you're like, oh my goodness, why did they do that? But as a whole, averaged out over 162, they're going to be the beneficiary of it, and that's why they do it. Let's talk stuff. Tarik Skubal. 5 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, 2 home runs against. Really, the only issue I had with this outing was just his fastball and sinker command was brutal. Like outside of that, like he'll be fine. That's why I'm not putting him in like what went wrong. Like Tarik Skubal is one of the best pitchers on the planet, if not the best. Paul Skeens gave up runs today too, dude. Like it's a long season. It's his first outing. The stuff still looked fantastic. The fastball looked fantastic in terms of like movement and velocity. The changeup looked as good as it always does. I have no worries about Tarik Skubal. His command was just brutal. Like he had one inning especially. It was like a 4 or 5 batter stretch where he was literally just throwing fastballs down the middle to everybody, and they were smacking them all over the yard. He's not going to have too many games this year where he has 1 walk and 2 strikeouts, is my point. That'll get better. He's fine. There was nothing wrong with this outing. He's okay. Everybody's okay. Want to give credit to Andy Ibanez. Had an at-bat against a right-handed pitcher, which is not usually something he does, but opening day, he's getting an AB against a righty. And while he did strike out, and so ultimately he finds himself in stuff for this at-bat, and went 0 for 5 on the day. He did strike out, so it ultimately led to nothing, I guess, but he really put up a heck of a fight in that at-bat. And if you can just do that against righties, I'll be a happy camper. Like if he crushes lefties the way that he did in the first half of last year and the way he did in all of 2023, and just puts up like feisty competitive at-bats when he does have to face a righty, I will be a happy camper in that regard too. We'll see what happens with the Manuel Margot, Ryan Kreidler experience. Again, they just need to be serviceable for 4 to 6 weeks. And I think in this game, they were more than that. So we'll take it. Riley Green did play center field. Speaking of that, it does make me question the Margot signing even more. Like if he's not going to be any option to play center field, if he's not going to play center ever, why did we do this? Like why is he? And I guess that's, Rich coming from me after he goes 2 for 3 with a sac fly, but like, you know what I mean? It feels weird given, but whatever, we can move on. We talked about that yesterday. All in all here, okay, to summarize, you played the most expensive team in the history of baseball on the road, went 0 for 15 with runners in scoring position, with your reigning unanimous Cy Young winner on the mound, and gave up 4 runs in 5 innings, which he won't do very often. All of that, and you lost by 1. And matter of fact, the tying and the go-ahead run was on base when the final out was made. So, like, if you have one more hit, or if Skubal doesn't extend that inning, like that's an inning he just needs to get out of, and this whole box score and outing looks way different, right? It's a completely different outcome. Right, the walk to Mookie is what I'm referring to, and obviously. So all things considered, I don't think this is the end of the world. I don't think this is, a terrible start to the year. Like you lost, and there's no consolation prizes, right? I'm not trying to, make excuses or say, oh, they should throw a parade because they came close to the Dodgers, hang the banner. Not what I'm saying. That's a game that the Tigers should have won, and they let it slip. And it might be something that, at the end of the year, we look back and you go, wow, like if you don't go 0 for 15 with RISP, you're a game closer. You're in, a certain standing versus not being in one. It's very frustrating. It was frustrating to watch, I'm sure, to all of you. But with 161 games left, I don't leave game 1 like worried about the direction of the season, which is really all you can ask for after game 1. Because there's a few teams cough, cough, the Angels that I think you probably could say that about. Also, just a observation, there's a chance that a decent amount of games probably look like some variation of this, right? Hopefully not the 0 for 15 with RISP part. But I think that you're going to see, again, some variation of this a lot. Like pitching keeps you in the game, and it's all about just can the offense get you over the hump? Will it? That's the $1 million question. And we have 161 more games together to find out the answer to that question. Rest of the weekend, you play at 10 p.m. Eastern on Friday and 9 p.m. Eastern. I think it's 10:10 and 9:10 Eastern on Friday and Saturday, respectively. Friday, you have Jack Flaherty against Yamamoto. And on Saturday, you have Reese Olson against rookie Roki Sasaki, who will be making his major league debut. Pretty exciting stuff there. Favorite. Like I said, he's a rookie, favorite for rookie of the year, and is, I think, technically the number one prospect in baseball because he still technically has prospect status. But Jackson Jobe, my king. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back on Monday recapping a weekend of regular season baseball. Split the weekend. Is anybody mad if we walk out of this opening series 1-2? Like, again, this is a $400 million payroll, and you're going up against like a Cy Young candidate every day and a bullpen full of sub-2 ERAs and a crazy lineup. I'm not like screaming that the sky is falling and the season is over if they start off 1-2. I might 2 weeks from now, but we'll see how the first weekend goes. All right, step by step. Appreciate you all greatly. I love doing this so much, and this is really why I love doing it. Is talking ball that is happening. This is what I love to do. So I appreciate you all for tuning in, caring ever at all about what I have to say. It means the absolute world to me. We're going to have a fun year this year. This is my 4th opening day and my 5th season. I joined halfway through 2021 on this show. Let's make it a doozy, eh? Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch you on Monday, baby. Go Tigers.